my talk is a light and fluffy topic. You know, it's only about the last 3,000 years of male dominance of global culture. What is that? What history? What emotions? What is that? What's really there? A lot. But the truth is, this isn't a talk just about male dominance throughout history. It's about the celebration of what's happening today. Because in a way we're at a threshold. So my talk is about the paradigm of male and female in general, but I want to just really be clear up front that this is a talk about the human soul. And that within the human soul we have all elements, because we are a localized manifestation of infinite life. We have infinite combinations and interrelated masculine and feminine, and we are a combination, every one of us here. So the word male and female has actually been hijacked to have these standardized, fixed, even legislated by law meanings. That's man-made. We are individually built to have this infinite combination of male and female and strength and vulnerability and being the womb of creativity, men and women both. So my talk is really about, I believe that humanity is on the edge of stepping forward in a new design of our relationship among the masculine and feminine within humanity in such a way that this next step, if we do this right, could be as important as the discovery of fire. Because when you take half of a whole and you try to be powerful when the other half is right here, if we look at a male-female dominance in many ways, and I will share with you how this is true for the last few thousand years. I spoke with my mom. I went through this talk with my mom. She's 90, and she always likes to know what's going on. I said, well, Mom, I'm doing this talk. She said, okay, do it. Like, Mom, So I gave her the outline of it, and at the end she said, you know, you are a breath of freshness in an old, tired world. Because aren't we all old and tired? The paradigm is old, right? We have a lineage of ancient history as far back as thousands of years, and I don't have time to go over it, but I mean, we can go back as the year 300 or 400 with Aristotle, where he can be quoted as saying the woman is inferior to man and should obey the man. Aristotle, great scientist, Greek philosopher. Be clear about this. 2,000 years of this paradigm of perceiving the feminine. Now, I will, to the credit of Plato at the same time, he was a rebel, he was a revolutionary in a way, because he believed in the equanimity and the equality of the feminine and masculine back then. But he was the anomaly. The pervasive consciousness and culture was that there's less value in the feminine and in the woman. And I have many, many ways that I can accentuate this for you in the thousands of years. So we're carrying this boatload like we're pulling, and it's tiring. That's what's old and tiring, is the pulling of an old paradigm that doesn't work. In fact, if we really look at it, it's taking us to the brink of almost extinction, this war-oriented dominance of enemies and the status of conquering. And this is old, and it's tired. And so, about a few weeks ago, I was sitting with my mom at dinner, 90 years old, that I said, at her nursing home and senior village, and we do this every Sunday night, my family, my two sisters and my brother-in-law and niece and great niece. And we were having dinner, as we do each Sunday night. We call it potluck. We all kind of bring something from Whole Foods or wherever we can get it from. And we were each sharing about our lives, and I shared with my family. My brother-in-law wasn't there, so it was my mom and my two sisters and my niece and great niece. And I shared about what I was preparing for this talk, and I said, you know, it's amazing how dominant and pervasive male dominance is. And I heard a quiet little snort and a chuckle. We're a loving family. They were gentle with me. My niece said, Uncle David, don't take this personally, and I'm paraphrasing, but she said, don't take this personally, but, you know, for those of us that live in this way, it's like inside when a man says that, it's like, Duh. Right? Right? So my sister, who I have the utmost respect for, because she's been in the rising consciousness of the women's movement and then political activism and social activism. Now she's in the business of the business world, bringing a culture of equality to the very successful company she's in as a leader. And she said, again, paraphrasing, and she was as gentle as she could be, she said, David, it's just that when you or someone is born into a segment of a population that is privileged in a way, you live in a bubble. You don't have the direct experience of prejudice against racially, against colored skin or another faith or a gender, in this case the woman. You just don't know. And it's true. So I went back, just Google was my friend for a few weeks, and I went back into history, and it's just pervasive. This male dominance of a global culture and our collective consciousness. So today, I actually see this as heavy as it feels. I also see this as a potential for celebration. Because as the woman and the feminine takes her and its rightful and equal place at the table of humanity, that's the only time when the whole of humanity has the potential to flourish and step forward in an evolutionary step that's never been seen before. And so, it's an interesting time because there's a lot of energy potentially being, as the Me Too movement is, I call it like a top of a volcano more than an iceberg, because an iceberg is solid, which it is, but a volcano has energy. And at the top of the volcano, it crusts open and the energy goes. That's a threshold that we're walking into right now together, men and women. But the women are stepping forth out of the shadows and the fear and the secrecy of the pain that they've lived through for thousands of years, or recently. In fact, the statistics are that 1 out of 6 women, the United Nations did a study, and 1 out of 6 women have either been sexually assaulted or have that completed in a rape. That means in this room, there are women who have the direct experience of this violence against their being. Men, this means that women that you know probably haven't talked about, unless you were lucky enough to be a safe place, haven't talked about the pain that they're carrying secretly. So this time is really a time for men to wake up, open the heart, and say, I hear you. It's like a volcano, and if we do this right, if we walk through this threshold together, and it's going to be a long threshold, my friends, because we're all going to be protecting opinions and standards, and we're going to be attacking and defending the way we feel and our position and the way it used to be, and that's going to happen. And men are going to be swept up that really would be better allies than enemies. That's going to happen too and has happened. But this is not all about just the Harvey Weinsteins, the ones who abuse. This is about the subtlety that we as men still carry without even knowing it. For instance, I'm going to ask you to be brave now, men. How many of you are conscious that sometimes you actually interrupt, overtalk, or don't let women finish what they're saying? Raise your hand if you know that's true on some level. Good. Thank you for your courage. Women, how many of you feel like when you're with a man, or often in a small circle of men, or 2 or 3 men, that you feel less welcomed, or that your voice is less listened to or of less value, or it's a challenge to even speak or get a full sentence out? Raise your hand if that's true on some level. Right, so the percentage number rises. This is the experience of the feminine in our world in a lot of ways. Now I want to be clear about something. There are cultures and there are indigenous tribes and groups where it's a relationship of equanimity. And there are nations in the world where women are more represented in the national government than men. So that does exist. So I'm not being black and white about this. But I am saying that in a general way, civilization has been built on this standard of the feminine being of less value in general than the masculine. So where does that bring us today? Well, what we do with this threshold we're walking through is very important. Nelson Mandela, when he came out of prison and was elected president of South Africa, the black South Africans wanted revenge and retribution. They actually wanted whites out of the country or out of companies or off sports teams. And Nelson Mandela said, no, If we do that, we become what we were fighting against. So I bow to the story of the woman and the pain. And I welcome and allow, and not allow in the sense that I give permission, but I allow the space for the rage, the anger, the pain that must be experienced as a woman to that degree. But my invitation is that we not stay in the realm of shame and blaming, but we move into the game of name and claim. Name what's been in history. Name what we're still working through. Men, I'm speaking to you also. But also claim that we are each whole in our own way. You have a combination of feminine and masculine energy that makes you unique, not like any other manifestation of God, of the infinite. You know, we are made in the image and likeness of God. In the Hebrew scriptures, oftentimes God is the word Elohim. And you know what? The image and likeness of Elohim is plural. So we are made in the image and likeness of plurality, not a male God. You, sitting in your bodies, you are an infinite combination of masculine and feminine intertwining. In fact, it's important that I speak right now about clarifying roles that we have been taught to play. You know, male and female, as I said, the term has been hijacked to have definitions and even legislation telling us how we're supposed to behave, and even behave in private. But as I was preparing for this talk, I had a lot of conversations with women, men, black, white, gay, straight, bi, trans, cisgender, and I really began to get a sense that this dominance of a male concept was overriding in a lot of ways, that we're battling to get out of it into the equality and wholeness of our own being. And I became educated. So you have an assignment when you're born. You have a male body. You got body parts. They say male or female. But the definition of what that means stops there. Because the chemical and hormonal and heart and soul of you creates you. And if you are created with a male body, but inside you feel more like a female, no, it's not no mystery. You're just transversing the gender line, so you're called transgender. Has no deep meaning. It's been around for centuries, since the beginning of man. But we have been taught that it's different than the male and female structure and standard, therefore it's wrong. That's why I say this talk today, even though it's the rising of the feminine, it's the rising of the balance of feminine and masculine as our wholeness, no longer enemies. And so another thing is cisgender. It means you're born with a male or female body and that's your identity. It feels right, but you may want to partner with the same gender. So there's these terms which are important to begin to name, just so that we get to know each other. So this room begins to feel comfortable that nothing is mysterious here. This is God expressing in infinite ways. This is the infinite universe coming out as you, each one of us. And the more we open our hearts and step out of this old paradigm of anything being better than another, it's the only, watch carefully, and this is the only time when these energies, so I love cinema, I think of a sci-fi movie where male has been separate from the female with this fake frequency of electricity between it, lies that tell them they're separate and enemies, and goes, it sounds like this. And the lies are, you're separate, you are different, you're enemies, and we're believing it with a male dominance. But what's happening today, I believe, in our threshold that we're approaching is that they're getting close. So picture a sci-fi movie with space and the electricity, and we're like this. This is what I believe is happening. And the electricity is going through the lies. And little rebels are sneaking through and connecting, going, ah! And they go back and they tell the rest, this is not true. Oh, but you really think so? And another rebel, and goes back. And the word starts to pass through everyone. This is not true. These are lies. We're not separate. We're connected. And the connection begins to happen even though through the lies. And it goes like this. And the lies get thinner and less pervasive and less believed as the norm. And pretty soon the lies go, oh no, that's not true. You're not one. You're not connected. That's all fake news. It's true, isn't it? That kind of news that is trying to be kept is perpetuating our sense of separation. That's why I say walking through this threshold together male and female and all the gender identities that we have, if we can do this right, we come out the other side where this happens. Such a cinema freak. Sci-fi movie. And then finally the veil pops. And this energy goes. And then it touches. And all the old electrical limits and prisons break down and disintegrate. And then this happens. A meeting. And then this happens. This is what we really are. Each of us individually and collectively. But this is the test. This is the threshold we're walking to now, because it's like the honeymoon phrase, right? You get close, you're in love, everything's kind of cool, and then you start meeting each other. You say, oh, that wasn't so perfect. Oh, this is challenging. Oh, but you know, I really believe this. Well, I believe this. And then you start to do this. And this is what we're going to walk through now, where we're still feeling our old paradigm. And we debate and we fight and we argue. And that's going to happen. And let it be okay. But if you hold the vision that the other side is what I'm interested in. There's a statement, I don't remember who it's from, I think I have it. It's called, vision is the art of seeing the invisible. Not seeing yet what this looks like. But that's my vision, is what does it look like for us to combine, for men to look into the eyes of a woman and respect them without knowing what's coming, but just say, this is an equal part of God looking at me through those eyes. There's a wisdom in there. There's a history in there that I can never have. And I need that, because frankly, if we don't welcome the feminine now, to have the creativity, the visioning, the passion, the path we're on is not a good path. So it's up to us to get through this together. And we're going to feel like enemies at times. But I beg you, please open your hearts and remember the vision on the other side. Women, if you have to go through the pain of coming out of the secrecy, do it. Do it with your feminine friends, your women friends, your colleagues. And with a male, if you feel safe, men, we need to become safe for this. For the healing of what has happened over thousands of years and what has happened today to many women in this room. So, what do? Well, we learn to dance together in new ways. See, if I'm the whole human body, and this is masculine, this is feminine, this could be a little bit like this. I could But, keep going, under. If the right hand, the masculine, don't stop now. If the masculine tries to control the feminine, and it goes like this, look what happens to the ability for the body, the organism of humanity to dance. You know, I'm doing it all down here now, because this is a struggle. Because the thing is, men, if I have to do this, I'm imprisoned by that relationship too. You see, by any male that has to have someone else or a woman or the feminine be less than him means he's imprisoned by the fear of lack himself. So, this is actually a liberation for men as much as women. This is the liberation of the species. And so now, I can do this. Maybe I go back. And the woman says, nope. Or you go, oh, sorry. Okay. And a woman goes into the old paradigm and the masculine says, nope. And you go, oh, sorry. See? That's what we want to do. Dance together. And it's going to be struggling. Accept it. But always hold the vision for what's beyond. And say, I'm willing to have this argument and this discussion, but are we on the same page that we need to move into a way of being in unity? Then you can have that conversation with a mutual vision that's past this time. We have to move from the name and the shame and blame game to the name and claim game. Claiming who we are. You guys, I love you guys. Thanks. So I had a good model. I'm going to aim towards the end of my talk. I had a good model for a man. My father was very kind and gentle. And he let me play. He taught me, he took little crumpled pieces of napkins at the end of a long dinner that was kind of boring, and he'd put it, and we'd put the salt and pepper shaker, and we'd play football, and just to pass the time. I'd look around this room right now because of my dad, and find something to play with and create the energy of play. He was a good man. He was in agony inside because he had a disciplinarian father. Grew up on a ranch. It was hard work, but he taught me how to play. And if he comes, I'll show you a picture of him. But I'll also move on to my mother. I had a good example for the feminine from my mother. She's 90 now, and I put her to bed sometimes, 3 times a week pretty much. I share that with my sisters. And at night, she lies on the bed. Her eyes are usually on the ceiling, and she's contemplating something. Sometimes she'll be silent for a while. The other night, she did this. She looked over at me. She did this. She went. She's done that before in my life, and what she's saying is, yes. Yes to you. With all our trials and our mistakes and our tribulations and our imperfections, we need now in our lives to do this with each other across genders, all gender identities. We have to look at each other and go, yeah, I hear you. I get it. I hear you. We have to do that. My mom taught me. She gave me so much love. She helped me feel confident up here. And men, by the way, it's okay to cry. I cry when I talk about truth a lot in my life. I have for years, and I used to be embarrassed, and now it's like I was told that tears are the devotional watering of the soil of the heart. That's what these tears are. So we have to water each other's hearts now, my friends. And so I'll begin to end now with this quote. It was by Meister Eckhart in the year 1400. This was around the Roman Empire, I think. What good is it to me that Mary gave birth to the Son of God 1400 years ago, and I do not give birth to the Son of God in my time, in my culture? We are all meant to be mothers of God. God is always needing to be born. You see this, in a certain reality, God doesn't need to be born. God is all of this already. But the experience of the human awakening to that being true is God being born. Our experience of recognizing the oneness and the expression of the infinite as each of us collectively and equally and sitting equally at the table, that's what needs to be born. So Ram Dass said, we're all just walking each other home. We're all just walking each other home. And we're going to have arguments. We're going to have struggles. But keep the vision that home is where we're walking. To the heart where we are whole and complete. And my feeling to end is this. We can postpone this no longer. Hashtag, it's time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, let me do this. I'm going to do this. If it'd be all right, we're going to complete with an inward reflection on what just occurred. So allow yourself to be comfortable. Allow your eyes to close. And turn your attention to the inside temple in your heart, which is not touched by this world. No story of men, no story of women can get in this place. This is your sacred home that we're all walking each other towards. And on our walk, we feel our pain, Men, we feel our loneliness of having to be strong when we don't feel like that. Women, the loneliness of being hurt and not being heard, or having the safety of expressing your pain. I invite you as a soul creation of the universe itself in this moment to be awake and welcome your own pains. You have to be in this moment the love that you've been seeking. Can you for a moment recognize and honor the journey you've been on, male and female, and any gender identity that is true for you? Can you be the home that you walk home to now? Can you be that which you've been seeking in others now? Take a gentle breath and relax the shoulders as you exhale. And just relax into home. That's always been waiting your attention. Always been waiting for your awareness. With open arms saying, yes, my dear, come home to my arms. This is the you that you've been seeking. And as in the song, it's time to stand up, hand up. Silence of not being seen anymore has been too much. Can you rest in the silence now, in your own love as an expression of the infinite love that creates the entire universe? Allow yourself to be that. It's time.